Hey there. I haven't really posted anything regarding kind of where I'm at right now in terms of how I got to where I'm at, to be a counselor in training and going back to school. So I just kind of give a little background about who I am. So I grew up in San Diego, California. I was born in Florida, and I also lived in Virginia. My dad was in the Navy. And basically that's my hometown in San Diego. I dealt with a lot of depression in high school, in my going into my early 20s and partly into my 30s. It's just something that I had dealt with for a long time. When I was in high school, I thought about becoming maybe being a psychologist would be really cool, but my grades were shit, and I just didn't have the confidence to be able to kind of pursue that any further, going into a university or anything like that. I tried community college for about a couple semesters, and I ended up dropping out. So then I went to get a Bachelor of Art in graphic design. I worked in marketing and graphic design for about 18 years. And then basically reconnected with my now husband. We dated when we were younger and dated long distance for a bit. And then I decided to move out to Traverse City, Michigan. And that was about 6 years ago now. My dad passed in 2019. I left Michigan in 2018, in May of 2018, and then his health was already declining, and then he went into the hospital. His chronic leukemia turned acute in March of 2019, and he, I want to say he was in there for maybe 4 to 6 weeks, and he passed away. No, longer. He was in there longer because he was there from March or April until June. Yeah, so he was in there for a bit. Anywho, I was still in Traverse City, Michigan, so some of that timing is kind of spotty a little bit. He passed in June of 2019, and as I'm sure for many people who have lost someone very close to them, it kind of gives you this aha moment where you're kind of thinking about where your life is at, what you're doing. I had already been really questioning staying in the field of design and marketing for a while. I wasn't super happy about where I was in terms of, even when I was living in San Diego, I wasn't feeling fulfilled. There was a sense of something just not there for me. And so when my dad passed, it was a moment where I really kind of realigned some of the things that I felt were important to me. And one of those things is I don't want to stay in a job or a career where I don't feel fulfilled or in some capacity. And that might not be the case for everybody. For me, that was important for me in terms of wanting to live my best life, is being in something that I enjoyed doing, and I felt good about doing it. And this is not going to be the story for everybody. This is not going to be the story for anyone who's in the field of graphic design and marketing. People are in it and they're great and they love it. They do it for the rest of their lives, and that's fantastic. And so this is just my story. It's not anyone else's. And so when I reevaluated a lot of things, I just realized that I was going to shift gears. Went back to school, got a second bachelor's degree in Bachelor of Science in psychology. Thankfully, my credits had transferred, so I only needed to get the required courses for the psychology undergrad. And then I made the plan of applying for the graduate program at Central Michigan University, and they have a fully online program. It was the program that was best fit for me in terms of them providing an accredited program. It was fully online. Traverse City, Michigan does not have a lot of university colleges that are available. They have a small community college, but there's nothing. You have to find an online program if you want to pursue something in higher ed. So I started that, and I've just felt really good about where I'm at. I I just started going into my 3rd year, and I've kind of had this conversation with like quite a few people about, you know, there's like so much growth that happens over those years. And in terms of like starting the program and kind of like as you move in and start, you know, taking your classes, you start connecting with other students, you start really kind of evaluating internally, like emotionally, physically, all these things. And that's kind of like the progression of like you're like getting a counselor identity and, you know, developing like theoretical approach and like all these things. And it can be really overwhelming at times. And so I've really kind of reflected a lot back on kind of who I was when I was younger. And it's really helped me also kind of process in sense of like, oh, this is kind of like validating my own experiences when I was in my teens and my early 20s. And some of those things that I was in situations or that really kind of like steamrolled a lot of my depression. And it really kind of just makes you think and reflect back on who I was throughout that process, who I am now, who I'm becoming, like all these things. And this is something I've talked to my mentor about. So shout out to Dr. Branch. You know, kind of like facilitating this own process for myself. And it can be really challenging to share that with people around you who may not have that same experience. But it's through this process, it's like I also was a fellow for the last year, well, since January, through National Board of Certified Counselors. I am also president of our Mu Kappa board through CMU. It's Psi Sigma Iota. It's an International Honor Society for Counselors. And all these responsibilities, like it's a lot, and sometimes you feel very just like drowning in a sense at times. But in the same token, it's like I want to just experience so much and take in what I can, because I feel it's important, and what is important to me may not be important to someone else. And so it's always great to recognize that like everyone's journey is going to be different, and everyone who's in the program comes from different backgrounds and different experiences. And it's also been really great kind of seeing how there are so many people who are in their 40s, 50s, or 60s going back for a second career or third career, and really just like owning that. And it's so important because I think there's so much stigma in terms of, I think a lot of times nowadays, where there's still this stigma that if you don't have this, you don't have that, or you're not going to be good enough, or whatever. It's like, who gives a fuck about what everyone else is doing? Just do what makes you happy, and fuck the noise, you know? And so I'm just here in this space, and I hope that I can share kind of little bits and pieces here and there about my own experience in terms of what I went through when I was younger. And I'm sure at some point I'll talk about that more in detail. And then also kind of the stuff that's happened over my life and kind of how I think that's really kind of helped to shape who I am as a counselor because of my own experiences, and has really provided a lot of motivation and depth to like who I want to become and how I'm going to change over those years, because obviously I'm not going to be the same person in 10 years as I am now. And I'm just really grateful for like all these opportunities, but it's not going to say that it doesn't come with a cost, because obviously it takes so much time. I don't have much of a social life, and I do what I can to like self-care. I like to read, and you have to find those little moments in order to just take a moment out for yourself. And it is really challenging, and I struggle with that on a continuous basis. So if you're one of those people that really has a hard time, like I'm there, I'm with you. And I hope that like some of these videos can really provide some like contextual background as to like, if you have someone in your life that's in a graduate program, you have someone in your life that is a counselor or becoming a counselor, there's a lot of growth that goes into that. And it's not to say that anyone else's experience is different if you're not going to be a counselor. Just know that like we learn, and then when we are in the field of having a complete empathetic moment with people, and our priority is a client, and learning how to put that priority first in terms of like being there and being receptive. And no, Carl Rogers, he's a humanistic approach, like a unconditional positive regard of like going into each session and just like having accepting people for who they are in that moment. And there is like this, like, I try and approach that for a lot of things in my life. Of course, we're not going to be counselors like in our outside of like that profession or outside of being a student, but I do my best to try and provide some sort of context to that in my life. And I think that's why like I have a lot of passion about certain topics or certain things, and about the profession itself and where it can go. And I hope that this just kind of provides some context. I have a little bit of ADHD, so I will tend to ramble and maybe repeat myself, so I'm sure you'll notice that in some of the videos. But if there's anything that you think that would be great for me to talk about or mention, please let me know, because I'm open to ideas. I'm like still getting used to doing the videos and seeing what people would be interested in talking about. I also plan on having like a kind of a WebEx call and sharing that with like a friend, a colleague, student of mine, friend, kind of about like her own journey as well, and kind of her own self-care. And I think that's the biggest thing, is like self-care isn't just about like reading a book. It's also about setting boundaries for yourself and setting time limits, and like say on your phone, which is like I have such a hard time with. So it looks in so many different capacities for so many people. So anyway, if you have a journey that you'd like to share, please post it. And or any feedback, great, I'm open. So I look forward to posting some more videos and sharing some more content. So thanks.